Jimmy Butler is not happy in Miami. He's very upset. Despite making $48 million a year, this man is unhappy with his situation in Miami. It's actually a little bit over 48 million. If you look at his salary this year, it's $48,798,677. So just a little bit over 48 million. Now, if he opts in next year, he's going to make 52 million, a little bit over 52 million. So I would say life is pretty good for Jimmy Butler. Just granted, I'm not one of those people that believes that money will solve all your problems, but it definitely solves most of your problems. Granted, some people can still be unhappy with money due to other circumstances, but his life is pretty good. Now, I just want to read some quotes from here, what he was saying. So here it goes. I want to see me getting my joy back playing basketball. Wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon. I'm happy here off the court, but I want to be back somewhat to dominant. I want to hoop and I want to help this team win. And right now, I'm not doing it. So he's not happy with obviously the way he's playing because he said he wants to be back to somewhat dominant. That means that he's not been playing as great as he feels he could be playing. And I would say there's some truth to that. You look at his numbers. He's averaging only 17.6 points per game this year, but his efficiency is really high at 55% overall, 37 from the field. That's pretty good efficiency, but his scoring is like the lowest since his third year in the league, which was like about 10 years ago, a little bit over 10 years ago. So scoring has taken a little bit of a hit. I don't know what's going on with that. I haven't really watched Miami that much this year, but I think that Jimmy's unhappiness really comes from Pat Riley not willing to give him an extension. That's really what it's about, to be honest. They're not really losing when you look at Miami's record. They're slightly above 500. They've always been that team the last few years, a team that will win somewhere above 40 games, maybe mid to high 40s. I don't think they have ever gotten above 50 during the time Jimmy Butler has been there, but they're a grind out team. They'll play slightly above average 500 basketball, and then they get into the playoffs. And during this era with Jimmy Butler, they've been able to upset a few teams, and they've been able to go on 2 final runs. So that's really how they operate. So I don't know why he would be unhappy about just even the wins and losses right now. It just really comes down to money. That's really why he's unhappy, because Riley's not willing to give him the extension that he wants. And at the same time, I wouldn't give it to him either. The man just turned 35. That's usually a bad deal going forward when you give out a max deal to a player above the age of 35. Granted, there's some exceptions where you feel as an organization you have to do it because the guy was your franchise player for many years. Just look at the situation with the Warriors and Curry. He's going to be there forever simply because he was their guy from day one. But Jimmy wasn't Miami's guy from day one, and he never brought them a title. So I don't feel Miami really has the allegiance that they need to have to give him that money. Just he may feel disrespected, but it's a risk giving a player a super max deal after the age of 35. If we're being honest, very few guys in the history of this game win titles after the age of 35. It doesn't happen often. I think LeBron last won his title when he was 35 years old back in 2020, winning that overrated bubble championship. But just if you go even back, like the last guy to win a championship above the age of 35 in recent history was Tim Duncan back in 2014 when he won his final NBA title at the age of 38. So it doesn't happen often. It just really doesn't. You have Tim Duncan, you have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and we're talking about like cornerstone players, not role players, actually star players who pull this off. It's a very small list of people. So if I'm Riley, I'm not willing to take that bet because I don't think Jimmy is going to lead them to a title in the next 5 years. You want to continue to build your team and possibly rebuild if you have to do that, and he would get in the way of it, and it just wouldn't be a good investment. I just don't see how that pays off. So I think this is really what it comes down to. Jimmy's very upset he didn't get that extension. I guarantee it, he would sign that extension immediately if Miami gave that to him. And that's why he's unhappy. It just comes down to money, and I'm sure he feels disrespected by the Heat when Pat Riley told him to shut his mouth. He didn't like it, but at same time, he has the right to say whatever he wants to say, and Riley has the right to say whatever he wants to say. That's the way I look at it. You just can't complain about the situation of it being unfair that he's not getting that money. Just he has it good right now. He's going to get a ridiculous amount of money this year and next year if he decides to opt in. If not, there's probably some team on the market that's willing to overpay him. But Jimmy, to me, is not a guy who can really be your franchise player in the sense that he can lead you to a title. He could be a good 2 or 3 guy, but that's about it. And usually the honeymoon always wears off with Jimmy Butler wherever he goes. In Chicago, eventually they got sick of him and they traded him. Minnesota didn't last that long. They got frustrated with him and they traded him. Philadelphia, I don't blame him for Philadelphia. That was just a brief stint where he was just there for just a season. Wasn't his fault why they didn't decide to keep him. They were just cheap. But Miami now, I think it's run its course. And so that's really all there is to it. But I don't think he has any reason to be unhappy, especially if he saved up his money. This guy's made astronomical amounts of money. So I don't see any reason for him to complain. I just think this is much to do about nothing. It's a typical story about a star player being upset he's not going to get a big contract going forward. Now, if I'm Miami, I would trade him because the situation will get ugly if you keep him after All-Star break. I do think he's going to get more and more frustrated. But you should also weigh out all the options. I would say don't rush to make a trade immediately. Use the next several weeks to find teams that are interested. And there'll be quite a few suitors. I think the Warriors will be desperate to give up the farm for him just to have a shot at another title. Granted, I don't think Jimmy Butler can help them, but I think they'll be dumb enough to trade several players, several draft picks, and that's how the game will go. I kind of look for them to be one of the teams that are willing to give the farm to get him. So you just got to wait. You got to be coy about this. Some of these teams who are contenders are going to get on losing streaks. Once they get on a losing streak, they can overreact, and then they might be willing to do a trade with you. So I think Miami's in the driver's seat when it comes to moving him. And I do think they will move him sometime around All-Star break because that's when the trade deadline is. So I think I wouldn't expect a move right away in the month of January. I would expect it sometime in early February, a move to be made. Riley is a good negotiator. He's good at bargaining. So I expect a big move involving him in a blockbuster trade. We'll probably get it in early February. So it'll be interesting. I just wonder which team will be dumb enough to give up the farm for him. That's what I'm really looking forward to more than anything. But I have nothing else to say about this situation.